Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I recently saw a post from Stefan Molyneux. For those who don't know who this guy is, he was something of an internet philosopher that was around a while ago, quite controversial. I think he got banned or something, but he's back on Twitter, or X as it's now known. And he's a secularist, really, and he does create very interesting conversations. But like a typical secularist, I wanted to explore this because he is trying to make arguments on forgiveness and its nature. And he's arguing with Christians especially. Some Christians are making good points back to him, many not. And I thought this really gets to such a massive issue in our age. And I think it's so important for those of us on the spiritual path to understand what's meant by forgiveness. Because as we can see with Stefan Molyneux here, he's taking the classic line that many secularists take, and even many Christians take, tragically. But he's saying, so it makes no difference to your moral obligations if someone genuinely apologises or just fakes it. You just forgive sociopaths who continue to be exploited. I think he means, you continue to be exploited. You reward corruption, then expect the world to become virtuous. Now, through a very secular, rational, humanistic lens, Molyneux is completely right. And Christians who then argue along that basis are not arguing, in my view, from a spiritual standpoint. They're missing the point. And this is why Christianity has become so corrupted. It's lost its more masculine pole of justice for this push towards total compassion. And it very often misunderstands that. So it starts to be too compassionate to the criminal or the wrongdoer and seeks no justice. Now, what I want to get at here, what is the most important thing for us to understand on this journey, is that worldly justice is completely acceptable and okay in the Christian tradition. In fact, it's moral. It's necessary we have some sense of worldly justice and punishment for a crime. It would be a failure and a sin towards a victim to do that, as well as the wider society. The point about forgiveness, and this is what's so poorly misunderstood. We've seen these cases in America recently where I think some black kid killed a white kid and his dad immediately forgave the guy. And it did see, he was trying to be Christian, but it almost seemed it was almost inhumane what this guy was doing. And we'll get to why. He was trying to show this sort of excess humanity in following Jesus, but in a sense had lost his humanity. I think there was one woman as well who brought her husband back in AI from death to forgive his killer. You thought, God, that's deeply immoral, because that's not that man doing it himself. It's you doing it for your own reasons. So the point I want to make here is that, well, where do we draw the line? And what is going on here? Because either we just punish the criminal or we forgive, and this is the sort of dichotomy that we're given in the modern era, but both are false. Because what forgiveness is really about is freeing yourself. It's not about freeing the other person. There's an element of that, but fundamentally it's about freeing yourself. And I speak from personal experience. I had a lot of rough experiences in life. I'm sure you have too. But I had to get to the point where I was like, me holding on to these pains is poisoning me because I have a chip on my shoulder, because I think I've been wronged by the world. Wronged in all sorts of situations, family, education, by women, all these sorts of pains that I'd endured. But I had to get to the point where it's like, I let go of these things and I'm free, or I hold on to them and will die. Because I'll constantly be shaking my fist at the world, shaking my fist at God. My heart will be blocked. I won't be able to have a sane, normal relationship. I won't be able to embrace life with love and freedom. As soon as I forgave, your heart is overcome with love, and then you're free. You really are free. But that doesn't mean that you immediately say to the person who wronged you, you don't need to deal with worldly punishment for your actions. We can see that that person might be corrupted themselves. Might be lost in sin, might be lost in hell, might be taken over by a demon, might just be immature, might be mentally ill, whatever it is. And we can learn to forgive that act, which means loose it from the pain of our own heart. But it doesn't mean that we don't seek worldly retribution for a punishment which has been brought on somebody. So this is the key point here. If in Molyneux's language we say, there's a sociopath who's done something terrible, when we say forgive, we don't mean that their actions are okay. That's not what forgiveness means. It's a misnomer of modern Christianity and also secularism trying to understand Christianity. And when we say we forgive, it doesn't mean, you killed, that guy. never mind. That's not the point of it. The point is to say we are going to work at freeing ourselves from paying double the price. We're already going through the pain, but we're going to work at loosing the deep pain that's occurred in us to be free of what this person has done to us. That's number one. Number two is, it depends on obviously what a person has done in life. But when that person has sinned greatly, Christ is very clear, and we have to offer and open up a path of redemption to that person. Now, again, there are cases where that just isn't possible because, say if you have someone in London Bridge, radical Muslim extremist, decides to try and cut off people's heads again, the police have a moral duty to shoot that person. Personally, I'm pro people having weapons anyway. I think it's all right to defend yourself. And the problem is if people don't, you very often find that people are just like lambs to the slaughter when something goes wrong. But the point is that I'm making here is there's a moral duty to take that person out. You have to shoot to kill. Now, there's a bigger argument that, again, theologians and philosophers of the age would have to make with regards to have some people done such heinous crimes? Are they so awful that there is divine retribution to be paid in death? Now, that is a bigger discussion. But the point I'm making here is the broader issue is the punishment has to be meted out for someone. And there are cases where they might have gone too far, but they're too deluded to ever really be capable of redemption. But when it comes to the vast majority of us, somebody can sin, but they have to be realised that God's forgiveness is available to them. That doesn't mean worldly forgiveness. It means God's forgiveness is available to them. That can transform them from the inside. That's what it's about. So we have to make that distinction when we forgive. It doesn't mean that we say the act is okay. It doesn't mean that the act shouldn't be punished. It means that we free ourselves from the pain of the act and allow ourselves to live free lives where we're not going to create more damage in hell because of what's happened, but we're also creating worldly punishment that has to be paid for a person that's committed a wrong, but also space for them to redeem themselves. And 99.9% of the time, that's going to be possible for most people. And some of the best Christians, some of the best spiritual figures, some of the best people are people who've felt that forgiveness and have transformed themselves. So again, this is what the forgiveness is really talking to. And this is how we actually create a better society, civilization down the line. I wanted to try and clear that one up so we're very clear on this part of our journey. It's about the spirit of the teaching, not about what we do in the world. And this is a really important thing, I believe, in understanding Christ and his message. If you read the Gospels, Christ very rarely, if ever, gives direct rules on what you should do. He's not really a guy that's like, do this, do that. That's what the Pharisees are, who Jesus is against. They're very legalistic. Christ is about the spirit. It's not the law, it's the spirit. And that's the thing that we should go to first. The spirit is, of course, love. And again, love isn't soppy-doppy, smoochy-woochy Hollywood. It's not completely forgive everyone all the time and never think anything's wrong. Love is justice, it's truth, it's seeing beyond the ego, it's doing what's right. That's what it is. It's beyond the individual self and what's harmoniously good for the whole. It's something more like that. And that's the real test that Christ brings upon us. It's why when he says, you've heard it said, don't commit adultery. Well, I say, don't even lust in your heart. That's a high standard. Christ is upping the standard. He's not, and again, we know when he finds a woman who commits adultery, he's not there to say, you bad person. He's there to try and show us we're hypocrites within ourselves and to clear our own hearts. And from that, we can create laws and act in a more just way, whether it's the punishment of crime or the forgiveness we have to mete out, or justice that we have to administer. I hope that makes sense. I think this is imperative in our own lives and our spiritual journey to make sense of things. Do let me know what you think down below. And do consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. Substack is also below. I'll be holding a monthly call there soon. Do take care.